Airtable forms are a great way to collect data for your base from anyone on the web. And once you have a form set up, you can use it as the basis for helpful time-saving automations. Hi, I'm Tom from XRay.tech, the workflow company. At XRay, we use Airtable and other no-code tools to build useful automations and systems that let people work smarter and faster. If you'd like to see more tips for Airtable, Notion, Zapier, and more each week, be sure to like this video and subscribe, and turn on those notifications too. In this video, I'm going to explain how form views work, and I'll show you how to set one up step by step. Then, I'll show you how you can use form views to trigger automations, and I'll give you a peek at how you can organize forms and other resources using XRay Workflow. As always, you can find helpful links for this video in the resources board linked in the description down below. Let's get started. A form view is a unique view for your data in Airtable. A form view can be accessed with a URL, and when the form is filled out, it adds a new record to your table. Any form view can be configured with several useful options. You can set certain fields to required. You can hide extraneous fields. Provide custom descriptions in help text, and a whole lot more. Now, I'm going to show you how to create and configure a form view step by step. To start, click on this Create button in the bottom left. This will show you all of the different views that you could add to this table. For our example, let's click on Form. We can leave the name as is, and who can edit as collaborative. When you click on this button, Create New View, it is added to your views on the left. You see a Fields column that is empty here, and your actual form is to the right. This is a builder view, and all of the fields in your table are added as questions to your form. Note that you can't enter data here to submit or create any new records. This is just the builder view. There are several options for configuring your form. You could add or remove fields, customize names, add conditional logic, and a whole lot more. And we'll show you all of that later on in this video, so check the chapters if you want to jump to a specific topic. First, let's open the form, see what it looks like, and see how it works. To open up your form, you can just click on Open Form. Now we can see the actual form where we can submit data. When you submit a response, a new record will be added to your table, which we'll be able to see in all of your other views. Let's fill out a response and see it in action. Note that Airtable branding pops up after you submit a form by default, but we can address that later. Now let's go back to the Airtable base and select the grid view so we can see our submitted response. And here it is. Robin the robot is right in line with everyone else. Now let's go through all of your options for customizing your form back in the form builder. Let's start by adding some style to our form. We can start by clicking on this cover image here at the top. You could upload a file from your computer, or you could search for something on the web, connect to Google Drive or Dropbox, Facebook or Box or OneDrive. You really have a lot of options, but we're just going to drag and drop this image that we got from pexels.com, a stock photography site that's royalty free. We'll upload here. And we have the same option for this logo area. We'll click on this. We can upload from anywhere else, or drag and drop an image from our computer. We'll add our XRay logo to the form. And there we go. 2 style elements added to the form. Now let's update the form's title and description. So we can do that just by clicking on the form. We can change this to whatever we'd like. A new contact form. When we click off of this field, we notice that the view has been updated to reflect the name of the form that we just updated. Now, when we add a description, note that this does not update the description inside of the view. So the description is disconnected, but the title is connected. Just be aware of that as you create more forms and try to keep track of all your different views. Now let's cover your options for configuring each field. We can customize titles and descriptions for each field. So if I click on first name, we can change this to what is your first name. And for some help text, We could even put a description, like this is usually the first thing on your driver's license. Note that when you change the question and the help text, it does not impact the field name. So even in our grid view, when we look at first name, you notice that it did not update to the question of what is your first name. This is really important because it gives you the flexibility to name these fields inside of your form however you'd like. Word the questions as verbosely as you'd like. You don't need to worry about those lengthy titles showing up in your grid views. Let's take a look at some other options that we have for each question. When I click on the first question here, you see you can turn on required. This won't allow anyone to submit a form without filling out this information. And for the first field, this show field when conditions are met isn't able to be turned on since it's the first question. I'll go ahead and make most of these fields required. Now this company name, we're going to make conditional. So let's show field when conditions are met. And that condition is going to be that the contact type is a partner. Actually, we want it to be is any of these options. That way, we can say client or partner. Now, this company name field will only show up when the contact type is a client or a partner. Let's open the form and see what it looks like. We see our header image is here, our logo is here, the description, the title. And let's submit a form and see what it looks like in our table. Note that when we select client, the company name field appears, and when we select internal team, the company name disappears. Back inside the grid view, here it is. Robin the Robot 2 shows up. Our form successfully submitted. It's important to note that specific field types in Airtable will often have unique configuration options in the form view. For instance, there's a couple of unique options for multi or single select fields. In this case, let's take a look at locations. Here, we can display these options as a list instead of as a dropdown, and we can limit the selection to specific options. In this case, let's just get rid of the other and Denver options. Use selected options, and here in our list, we see all of the specific options that we want to make available inside of our form. As you're building your form, always check for additional options with each field type. Note that any field in the table can be added or removed from this form. You could go up to the notes field, for example, and click on this little I to remove it from the form. And you see that it shows up in this list of fields in the middle here. Note that it only removes it from the form and not the table. So when we go into our grid view, we see that that notes field is still visible. Let's add a new field to our table and see what happens inside of our form. We're going to add a date field. We'll create this field and see that a date field has been added to our grid view. Back in our form, we see that date field shows up in this list of fields right next to our notes. And if we want to add it to our form, we can just click on these 6 dots to the right, grab it, and drag it into our form. Again, we could update the title. Let's call it today's date. And that covers all of our options for field settings. Let's scroll down to the bottom and see what general settings we have access to. We can see who submitted a response to the form, and when we turn this on, it will require people to sign in to Airtable in order to submit a response. And when you turn this on, you can also allow people to request a copy of their responses, which can be toggled on and off when the see who submitted a response is turned on. We're going to keep these off for now, though. You can also turn on and off Airtable branding. This will be an option that you have if you pay for Airtable. If you have a free Airtable plan, show Airtable branding will always be on. Lastly, you can redirect to a specific URL after the form is submitted. When you turn this on, a modal pops up where you can enter a specific URL that you want to redirect the user to. We'll just add our website and click Save. And there's a few more options here below after the form is submitted, but to edit them, we're going to have to turn off the automatic redirect. Here you can edit the message that the user sees after they submit the form. And in this case, we're going to say submitting the new contact. You can toggle on and off a submit another response button, or you can automatically show a new blank form after 5 seconds. And if you really wanted to, you could get emailed every single time someone submits the form. If someone else were to open this form, who's on your team and has access to the base and to the view, they would see their email added right here. So if Mark on my team opened up this view, it would say email me at mark@xray.tech. This is dynamic to whoever is signed in to Airtable and looking at this view and has access. And if one team member turns it on, that does not apply to any other team member. But again, we're going to keep all of these settings off. And that covers all of our customization settings. But there's still one aspect we haven't talked about, sharing settings. So come up here and click on Share Form. Now, there are a lot of options here. You can copy this link and send it to anyone on the web to complete the form themselves. You could also embed this view. And when you click on Embed View, you're given both a desktop and mobile version of this. And you have a really nice iframe code that you can just copy and paste to your own website or really anywhere you'd like to embed this form. Additionally, in the share settings, you have link settings. So when we click on link settings, you have another set of options. You could restrict access with a password. You could restrict access to a specific email domain, like your company's email domain. And you can stop accepting new responses. This is really useful if you have a form embedded on your website or embedded in a newsletter, and you just want to stop getting responses from this form. And you can also generate a new link, which will regenerate the link's URL and disable the old URL. And here you can just simply disable the share link. And this will stop all embeds and anyone else who has access to the shared link from submitting any new responses. And that's it. Now you're ready to start using forms in Airtable. Once your form is set up, it can be used to trigger automations in Airtable in just a few steps. For example, you may want to send a Slack alert to a relevant channel whenever a new contact is added with a form. To create a new automation, just click on the Automations tab at the top. And if this is your first automation, you'll be taken directly into a new automation where you can select a trigger. In our case, we want to select a trigger when a form is submitted. So we'll click on that here. If you already have an automation in your base, you can click on Create Automation in the bottom left to create a new one and choose your trigger. Now that we're in the trigger when a form is submitted, let's actually select the table that we want to connect this automation to. It's going to be the contacts table. And since we only have one form inside of that table, it is the contacts form, we'll use that. Next, give your trigger a test. You'll need to have at least one record in your chosen table for the test to work. You could use this suggested record button or be able to choose it yourself. So let's actually choose this Tom Tester 2 record. Next, add an action to your automation. So we're going to go here to this Add Advanced Logic or Action button, click on that, and if you scroll down just a little bit, you see Slack. There's even some new functionality in Slack for making an actionable message, but we're going to stick with just sending a message for now. When you build an Airtable automation that connects with other apps like Slack, you'll have to sign in to that app to authorize Airtable to perform automatic actions with it. In this case, we've already signed in, so we're just going to use Tom's Slack account. Then we configure the channel, and in this case, it's going to be the tutorials channel. And now I can compose the automated message. As with any text field in Airtable automations, I can use a mix of static text and dynamic data retrieved from the Airtable record that triggered this automation to run in the first place. So we're going to say a contact was created. There's a little cheat sheet actually right above, right here. We're going to use the asterisk to bold the name of the person. The name is this formula field here. You can click on that and put the asterisk on the other side. So that will actually bold the name of the contact. And in this example right here, This is how you hyperlink text inside of Slack. So we're going to do exactly that. We're going to create a link to the record using this base record URL option. The text of the link will just say, check out the record here. So the URL and record name will be dynamic data unique to each record that triggers this automation. And then the rest of this information is static text, which will be the same every single time the automation runs. Now let's give this bot a little personality. We'll call it New Contacts Callum. And this icon is going to be the same syntax as the icon in your Slack application. So that's going to require a colon, and we'll call this card index. And that is going to create the card index emoji. I'll set unfurl links to no. Callum doesn't need to take up that much space in my feed. Now I can give the automation a test, but first I'll give it a preview. So when I generate a preview here, you actually see the message that will be created inside of Slack. And here's that URL encoded text again. When I click on this, I can actually test where it goes. So when I click on this record, I'm actually taken to the expanded view of this record. Everything looks pretty good. So now let's run a test. So we're going to run as configured and run test. We just ran a test, and we can see that the preview generates inside of Airtable anyway, but let's head on over to Slack and see if we got our message. Here we are in the tutorials channel, and there it is. We see the static text and the bolded variable text, or dynamic text, and this record here that I can click on, and when I click on it, I am taken to the record. To wrap things up, give your automation a name. We're going to call ours Slack Alerts for New Contacts. Turn that automation on. Copy the automation URL. And we're actually going to put that URL inside of the form views description. Keeping automation URLs in view descriptions will help you keep track of which automations are connected to your views and which views are connected to automations. And now you're all set to use your form and the Slack Alert automation. As you keep using Airtable, you'll quickly find that you have lots of forms, lists, Kanban boards, and other views that you need to keep straight, maybe even across spaces. If you're struggling to keep Airtable and your other apps organized, you should give XRay Workflow a shot. With XRay Workflow, you can build your own custom personal home screen for different web apps and other resources you use every day. Here is an XRay Workflow board that we've put together for this tutorial. You can already see several pins with useful links and embeds related to this video. Now I'm going to show you how to add pins to a board. I'll add the contact survey and the grid view from our Airtable base as separate embed pins. Then I'll put both into a stitch to keep them connected. First, I'll open the form's sharing settings and grab the embed code. I can copy the entire embed code here. Close that window, come back over to XRay Workflow, and I'm going to add a new pin inside of this section here. We're going to call it Contact Survey. This is a tutorial. Try it out for yourself. And I'm going to choose Embed. And when I paste all of that code inside of this embed field, notice that just the URL gets extracted. I'll drag and drop this pin into the Live Survey and Shared Views stitch that I've already created. A stitch is a special pin type that can contain several different pins. Think of it like a folder. Now, I need to get a shareable link for the grid view. I'm going to click on Embed this view and copy the embed code it provides. Add a new pin, shared grid view, all of the submissions to the contacts form. Again, we're going to embed it, paste that embed code right there, and you see the shared grid view here. Add pin, click and drag that one into the stitch. Now I can open this up and I see my contacts view and I see my grid view. In XRay Workflow, I'm actually in the editor view. When we share this publicly, I can click on this button here, and this actually takes me to the public view of this board. Notice that left-hand rail option is gone, and we're just looking at the pins that are on the board. This is what anyone will see when they access a publicly shared board. Even when someone accesses the public link and isn't signed into Airtable, they can still see and use the pins we just created. Let's see how that works with another test record. And submit. I've submitted a new contact. Now let's check that grid view. And there's a new record right here. Now anyone can access these Airtable views in one spot without needing to sign into Airtable. This is the resources board linked to this video down below. Open it up, give it a try, and let us know what you think in the comments. Airtable forms are an easy, convenient way to let anyone submit data to your base. Just add a form view to your table, configure your settings, and copy the link to share your form and gather data from anyone on the web. Then, use tools like Airtable Automation and XRay Workflow to do even more with the forms that you've built. If you've enjoyed this video, prove you're human, like and subscribe for more automation tips every single week. If you'd like to learn more about no-code and low-code automation, follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook, and you can find all of our content on our website at xray.tech. You can find all those links in the resources board down below, and as always, don't forget, keep the flow. Trying to future-proof yourself? Start designing the way your team works with no-code tools, automation, and AI. In XRay's Workflow Designer course, we'll show you how to break down every part of a process to find the best opportunities for automation, and how to integrate those automations into your team's daily work. You'll learn how to create time for your entire team, get more reliable results, and give everyone a newfound clarity and confidence in their work. Just go to this URL to learn more. The entire package includes over 2 hours of premium video content, challenging example projects, and tons of helpful resources. The course costs just $250 and gives you lifetime access to a Slack community of workflow designers building systems in dozens of different industries. Space is limited, so join the free waiting list today to get notified as soon as the course is live later this year. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you soon in our Workflow Designer course.